The rainbow pledge. When Noah and his family came out of the ark, they acknowledged God by offering to him a sacrifice. And God pledged the rainbow as a sign that he would never again destroy mankind by a flood of waters. A rainbow was never seen before that time. For the reason given in the Bible, there had been no rain. Furthermore, the sun's rays did not directly strike the earth, but merely through the canopy, with much the same effect as that of a hothouse. Many changes were brought about by the removal of the canopy. Rains, floods, droughts, thunderstorms, tornadoes, extremes of heat and cold. These things were impossible under the canopy. Noah's intoxication is accounted for along these lines. The juice of the grape had not previously fermented. Hence Noah could not have known of its intoxicating effect. With the collapse of the watery envelope came the extreme heat of the tropics and the extreme cold of the polar regions before the ocean currents modified them. The change must have been almost instantaneous. We have proofs of this. In northern Siberia, an antelope was found embedded in ice. It had green grass in its stomach, which proved that its death occurred suddenly while it was feeding. Similarly, a mastodon was found embedded in ice with food between its teeth. Thus is demonstrated that the poles were once as equable as the temperate zones, and that in a moment came such a change as could be brought about only by the breaking of the canopy. The great glaciers and heavy ice of the Arctic regions, formed thus suddenly, have existed for centuries. The water did not all congeal into ice, but like a tidal wave carried great glaciers and boulders across the North American continent and northwestern Europe, as scientists have clearly traced. They cut through hills with such force that they have left their mark for all time. Equatorial currents, the Gulf Stream and the Japan Stream, have since thawed out much of the polar ice. Demigods of Greece and Egypt. Long have the learned wondered what foundation Grecian mythology might have had. Now, taking heed to the sure word of God, we perceive that the angels who materialized before the flood were the gods of mythology, while their offspring, the giants, were the demigods. The suggestion may well start a flood of reflection in thinking minds. Egyptologists have been astonished by their findings in the tombs of the pharaohs. In some of these, historic tablets have been found, tracing the ancestry of the pharaohs apparently back to creation, the first pharaoh, Adam. But these tablets show so many more generations than the Bible record that Egyptologists lose all faith in the Genesis account. They become higher critics, discount the Bible record, and pin their faith to the Egyptian tablets. They confess, however, that these tablets vary and more or less contradict each other. Conceitedly, the most accurate is the Abydos tablet, found in the sepulchre of Seti I, probably the pharaoh who made Joseph his prime minister and who is supposed to have died about 120 years before Moses was born. The chief fault found with this tablet is that it is not so lengthy as some of the others. Nevertheless, Pharaoh Seti I preserved this tablet for us with great care. He sank a shaft 60 feet deep through solid rock. At that level, his masons cut out the stone staircase on which the Abydos tablet is portrayed. An exact copy of it is to be found in the British Museum. At considerable expense and with difficulty, we have secured the photograph of it, which we here present. Our object is to show that this best of Egyptian records fully corroborates the Genesis account. This list of pharaohs is shorter than the others because it omits the names of gods and demigods. It is the complete Egyptian record of the purely human line of rulers back to Adam. Furthermore, these omissions occurred at the appropriate place, at the time of the deluge. Adam, Mina, was Pharaoh first. The Abydos tablet fully agrees with Genesis, and is often corroborated by the Greek and Egyptian historians Herodotus and Manetho. It shows Adam as the first pharaoh and Noah the 20th, while the intermediate 18 correspond with Genesis with remarkable accuracy. Mina's wife was Shesh, Hebrew Isha, woman. Her first son was Pharaoh II, Greek Peter Kent, guilty one, Hebrew Carnegie, Latin Athos, English Cain. The tablet for Abel represents him as the non-resistant one. The Abydos tablet shows the same order as Moses, giving first the line of Cain down to Jabal, who was taken. At that time, evidently, the gods and demigods began to fill the earth with violence. Sitai's list omits the names of these. All demigods were destroyed in the deluge. Noah is next in order with a regal title. But since he was not of Cain's family, the Abydos tablet there goes back, mentions Abel and Seth's line, just as given in Genesis, untitled, down to Noah. These all, as pharaohs, have their royal ovals, but no super titles. After Noah, Nofru, Pharaoh 20th, the line runs through his son Ham, Chemu Chufu. Appropriately, Noah's other sons are ignored, for Shem and Japheth went to Asia and Europe, while only Ham went to Egypt. Thus wonderfully is the Bible being vindicated by the very inscriptions once supposed to contradict it. Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Besides this, he was Jehovah's prophet, and so certified by Jesus. Although Moses lived 2,000 years after Adam, history connected up very close to his time. From Adam to Moses, there were but 5 intermediaries: Methuselah, Shem, Isaac, Levi, Amram, whose lives overlap by periods ranging from 31 years to 243 years, as shown in our diagram. The Tower of Babel. Years after the deluge, the world began to be populous. The narrative handed down by Noah and his sons was more or less forgotten, and the bow of promise lost much of its significance. Losing confidence in God, the people began the construction of the Tower of Babel, which was to save them in spite of God from any flood of waters of the future. Alas, how short-sighted! Like others who possess much worldly wisdom, the Scriptures deprecate such lack of faith among Christians and attempts to protect themselves and their earthly interests, leaving God and his plan out of their calculations. Some today ignore God after this manner, saying, "Trust not in the Lord for the things promised. If you wait for God to do for you, nothing will ever be done." In other words, we are living in a day when faith in the divine will and in the divine plan and promises seems to be on the wane. God settled the matter by confounding the language and scattering the people so that they could not cooperate in further foolish undertakings. The Bible refers to this, saying, "He hath determined the times before appointed and the bounds of their habitation, that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him." The diversity of languages is one of the most remarkable things in the world, an effectual barrier to prevent mankind from combining for the accomplishment of their own purposes, selfish or sinful. It has delayed the great day of wrath. Now the language barriers are breaking down, and we find the tendency of humanity to reunite. Unions and trusts are being built by the rich and the poor, each for self-protection. The rule of kings and princes is threatened by the growth of common language and intelligence in the masses. Had these barriers been removed 2,000 years ago, similar results would have come too soon, according to the divine purpose, which is shaping earth's affairs in preparation for Messiah's kingdom, which will bless the entire human family.